From shadowed assassins to the Conqueror's Vanguard, Herman's mark blazes hotter with every trial, each battle twisting jungle and fate into weapons, until the child of the Forbidden stands on the edge of war. Audible Archives presents Runeborn Part 2, Chapters 16 to 30. I'm Rob, your host and narrator. Let's begin the search in every corner of Runeski. Chapter 16. Shadows Within. The jungle was quiet, too quiet. Herman moved with Orvik through a narrow corridor of twisted roots and thick vines, the moonlight barely touching the forest floor. His mark burned faintly beneath his sleeve, the raven's wings shimmering, tail curling fully to his wrist. The pulse of the jungle thrummed in tandem with his own heartbeat, warning him that something was wrong. Then he saw it. A flicker of movement near the roots. Quick, deliberate, human. Not an animal. Not a runesmith. "Stop!" Orvik hissed, eyes molten, scanning the shadows. "Someone is here." Herman froze, gripping his staff tighter. His pulse quickened. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. From the undergrowth, a figure stepped forward, cloaked in black, hood low, face obscured, but the presence, the intent, it was unmistakable. "I've been waiting for you, Runeborn," the figure said, voice smooth and cruel. "The Conqueror sends his regards." Herman's stomach sank. His mark pulsed violently, wings flaring against his skin, tail writhing like living fire. The jungle seemed to respond, roots rising and twisting toward the intruder. The figure laughed softly. "Don't think the trees will save you. I am inside now. You cannot hide." Orvik moved beside Herman, massive and glowing with faint runes. "He is no ordinary spy," the elder warned. "His magic is subtle. We must be careful." The cloaked figure struck first, a dart, tipped with shadow and venom. Herman twisted, staff swinging, deflecting the projectile. Sparks flared where it struck the runes at his feet. The mark blazed white-hot, and the pulse of the jungle surged into him. Herman lunged, rolling low through the undergrowth, roots curling to shield him. The figure vanished into a swirl of mist and shadow, moving faster than he could follow. "Stop him!" Herman shouted. Orvik's deep voice cut through the tension. "Focus, boy. Do not let fear guide you. Let the jungle show you the path." Herman took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the mark, the wings and tail flaring with fire. The jungle whispered again, the rhythm of the forest, the path of the intruder, the answers hidden in the shadows. With a surge of instinct, he followed, dodging traps of poisoned roots and falling branches. The intruder was clever, but Herman's connection to the jungle was growing. Each pulse of the mark, each shimmer of wings and tail, sharpened his senses. Then, in a clearing faintly lit by moonlight, the spy reappeared, eyes glinting beneath the hood. Herman planted his staff firmly. "I won't let you harm this place. Or me." The figure smiled under the hood. "We shall see, Runeborn. We shall see." The jungle shadows stretched long, alive, and Herman knew that the first true test inside its depths had begun. Chapter 17. Fire and Shadow. The clearing pulsed with tension. Moonlight spilled through the thick canopy, catching dust and mist in silver streaks. Herman's mark burned beneath his sleeve, wings shimmering red-gold, tail curling to his wrist like molten fire. The spy crouched low, cloak billowing, eyes glinting beneath the hood. The forest itself seemed to lean in, whispering warnings Herman could almost understand. "Come, Runeborn," the figure hissed. "Let's see if the jungle's child can fight." Herman's grip tightened on his staff. The air around him vibrated with heat, the pulse of the mark echoing in his bones. The spy struck first. Shadow blades shot from the undergrowth, twisting through the air with unnatural speed. Herman ducked, staff swinging, deflecting one blade into a nearby root. Sparks flew as runes flared beneath the impact. The raven in his mark flared, wings spreading wider, tail flicking like flames along his arm. The pulse surged, flooding Herman with energy, speed, awareness beyond his own training. He rolled forward, staff lashing out. One strike connected with the spy's shoulder, and the cloak erupted into mist. The figure recoiled, and Herman felt the first taste of power. A tremor of energy, leaving his mark glowing brighter than ever. The duel intensified. Blades of shadow tore through the clearing, roots twisted like serpents, and Herman's every move was mirrored by the glowing wings and tail along his arm. He struck, blocked, spun, each motion in perfect resonance with the jungle's pulse. A sudden lunge sent him to the ground, but the mark flared white-hot, releasing a shockwave that hurled the spy backward. Herman scrambled up, panting, heart hammering. The jungle hummed around him, alive with whispers and fury. The spy rose again, shaking off the impact, eyes narrowing. "Impressive," the figure hissed. "But the Conqueror's reach is long. You cannot escape your fate." Herman tightened his jaw. "I don't care about fate. I care about surviving this moment." With a cry, he struck again. The mark flared, wings expanding like fire in the night, tail whipping across his forearm. Roots erupted from the ground, catching the spy mid-lunge. Shadow blades shattered against the glowing runes at Herman's feet. The figure hit the ground, rolling to recover. But Herman stood firm, staff planted, chest heaving. The jungle seemed to breathe with him, whispering approval, warning, urging him onward. Finally, the spy gave a low hiss, retreating into the mist of the jungle, vanishing with a swirl of shadow. Herman lowered his staff, sweat dripping down his face. His mark burned fiercely, wings shimmering, tail fully alive. Orvik emerged from the shadows, eyes molten, massive hand resting on Herman's shoulder. "You fought well, child of the Forbidden," he said. "But this is only the beginning. The Conqueror will not be so easily repelled next time." Herman clenched his fists, feeling the pulse of the mark, alive, aware, and eager. He had survived, but the jungle's whispers promised more trials, more shadows, and more fire. And somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's gaze was already reaching into Runeski. Chapter 18. The Conqueror's Mark. The clearing was quiet now, the mist settling like a shroud over the jungle floor. Herman's chest heaved, staff still in hand, mark blazing along his arm. Orvik's massive form loomed beside him, silent and watchful. Herman's eyes flicked to the far edge of the clearing. Something glinted in the moonlight. A small, obsidian shard, etched with runes that pulsed faintly red. The spy had left it behind. He knelt, hesitating. The moment he touched it, a sharp jolt of energy ran through him. The runes burned in response to the mark, wings and tail flaring, shimmering against his skin like living fire. Orvik's voice rumbled behind him. "Do not underestimate this. It is a fragment of the Conqueror's will, a message and a warning. He knows of your existence, and he is probing your strength, your limits." Herman traced the carvings on the shard, whispering the symbols aloud. Images flashed behind his eyes, a dark throne, armies breaking like shattered glass, and a figure standing at the center. The Conqueror himself. His gaze was cold, infinite, and it burned directly into Herman's chest. "This is a warning?" Herman asked, voice tight. "Yes," Orvik said. "A challenge. The Conqueror seeks to bend the jungle, your fate, the world itself. And he begins with fear, with manipulation. This shard carries part of his magic, to tempt, to test, to weaken your resolve." Herman clenched his fists, feeling the pulse of the mark surge along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered, the tail flaring bright as molten fire. "Then I'll stop him." Orvik's molten eyes glimmered. "You may survive him, child of the Forbidden. But survival is only the first step. The path ahead is dangerous, and the Conqueror's reach is long." Herman pocketed the shard carefully. Its heat burned faintly, but it whispered secrets he did not yet fully understand. He looked to the jungle, listening to the faint hum of the stones, the pulse of the earth, the whispers that promised trials still to come. "I will not run," he said. "I will face whatever comes." The jungle seemed to respond, a low rumble echoing through the roots and trees. Herman's mark pulsed in tandem, wings and tail alive, warning and guiding. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. "Good. But remember, the Conqueror watches all. and he will not wait long. Herman nodded, gripping his staff tighter. Beyond the shadows, the jungle hummed, alive, expectant. And somewhere, far beyond Runeski, the Conqueror's gaze had already shifted, setting the pieces in motion for the trial that would decide the fate of nations. The mark flared brighter. The path ahead was clear, and Herman Runeborn would have to walk it alone. Chapter 19. The First Siege. The jungle trembled at dusk. Herman and Orvik crouched among twisted roots, listening. From deep within the misty trees, the sound of marching boots reached their ears, slow, deliberate, unrelenting. Smoke curled along the border, signaling the outsiders' return. "They've regrouped," Orvik rumbled, molten eyes scanning the horizon. "The Conqueror does not test lightly. He sends his strength to claim the jungle. And you." Herman's pulse hammered, mark burning fiercely beneath his sleeve. The raven's wings shimmered, tail curling, alive with warning and fire. He gripped his staff tighter, knowing instinctively this was no ordinary challenge. Through the undergrowth, the first patrol appeared. Armored soldiers, torches blazing, carrying weapons imbued with crude runes that hissed against the jungle's natural wards. Behind them, carts stacked with siege materials threatened the border stones. Herman whispered, "We can't hold them with the runes alone. They'll break through if they push hard enough." Orvik nodded. "No, they underestimate the jungle, and they underestimate you. But they will not wait long. You must act." Herman stepped forward, heart hammering. He extended his arm. The mark flared white-hot, wings stretching across his bicep, tail flicking like molten flame along his wrist. Roots rose from the ground, twisting into barricades, while glowing runes etched themselves in the soil at his feet. The soldiers hesitated, sensing the surge of energy. The captain from before raised his sword, shouting orders, but the jungle itself answered Herman's call. Vines whipped through the air, roots tripping soldiers, torches snuffed by sudden gusts of runic wind. Herman felt the pulse of the mark guiding him. Each movement was faster, sharper, in perfect rhythm with the jungle's heartbeat. Shadows of branches and leaves became extensions of his body, deflecting weapons and blocking paths. One soldier surged forward, attempting to breach the barrier. Herman swung his staff, the mark flaring, and the strike erupted in a flash of light. The soldier tumbled backward, unhurt but shaken, the runes at Herman's feet searing an impression of wings into the dirt. The captain roared in frustration, rallying his men. "Push forward. Do not let the jungle hold you." Herman's breath came ragged, chest heaving. The jungle hummed around him, alive and responsive. He could feel every pulse, every beat, every warning. The outsiders would not stop, but neither would he. Orvik's voice cut through the chaos. "Remember, child of the forbidden, you are not alone. The jungle flows through you, but it will test you. Always." Herman's mark blazed brighter than ever. The wings stretched fully across his arm, the tail flaring like molten fire. The pulse surged, and for the first time, he felt more than instinct. He felt control. He felt power. The first siege had begun, and the Conqueror's shadow loomed just beyond the trees. Chapter 20. Guardian of the Green. The jungle's edge burned with tension. Herman crouched behind a thick root, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered red-gold, tail flicking like molten fire along his wrist. Every pulse of the mark resonated with the heartbeat of the forest, warning him, guiding him, giving him strength. The outsiders surged forward again, torches held high, crude runes hissing against the jungle's wards. Their captain led them with practiced precision, unaware that the jungle itself now flowed through the boy standing before them. "Hold your ground," Herman whispered to Orvik, who loomed beside him like molten stone. "I'll lead. You guide." The elder nodded, molten eyes gleaming with approval. "Remember, Runeborn, control the pulse. Let it flow through you, not against you." Herman stepped into the clearing. The ground pulsed beneath him, roots twisting and writhing at his command. His staff traced patterns in the air, glowing runes responding to every motion. The first wave of soldiers collided with the jungle's defenses. Vines whipped, roots surged, and the glowing runes erupted in bursts of light. Herman moved fluidly, every strike of his staff, every flare of his mark, directing the flow of energy through the forest. The captain charged, sword raised, shouting orders. Herman met him in the center of the clearing. Their eyes locked, a clash of wills before blades even met. Herman swung his staff, a pulse of energy radiating from the mark. The captain barely deflected, stumbling back as the roots entangled his feet. Herman felt the jungle respond to his intent, the wings on his mark spreading, tail flicking with molten speed. He was not just defending the jungle, he was commanding it. Trees bent subtly, shadows shifted, and the ground itself rose to shield him. Soldiers fell back, bewildered and fearful, their momentum halted by the force Herman wielded. Sparks flew as runes glowed beneath his staff, the forest alive with every heartbeat of the boy standing at its center. Orvik's voice guided him. Do not tire, child of the forbidden. Feel the flow, bend it, do not break it. Herman's lungs burned, sweat dripped down his brow, but he moved with precision, instinct, and purpose. His mark flared brighter than ever, wings fully expanded along his arm, tail curling like a river of molten fire. By the time the moon reached its zenith, the outsiders were forced to retreat, battered and disoriented. The captain's eyes lingered on Herman, a mix of awe and fury burning within them. Herman dropped to his knees, chest heaving, but the jungle whispered approval. The forest hummed with life, flowing through him, embracing him, acknowledging him as its guardian. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. You have begun to master what the jungle has given you. But the Conqueror's shadow grows longer, and his eyes are already on the next move. Herman's mark pulsed faintly, wings and tail glowing softly in the moonlight. He stood, staff in hand, resolute. The first battle had been won, but the war for the jungle, and for his destiny, was just beginning. Chapter 21. Flames Within. The jungle was quiet, almost unervingly so. Herman knelt beside a shallow stream, staff resting across his knees, eyes tracing the reflection of the mark on his arm. The raven's wings shimmered red-gold, tail curling fully to his wrist, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Orvik stood behind him, massive and still, molten eyes reflecting the faint glow of the runes carved into the forest floor. Your strength yesterday saved the jungle, Orvik said, voice rumbling like distant thunder. But raw power is only the first step. You must learn to bend the flow of force, not just react to it. Herman nodded, gripping his staff tighter. I can feel it, he said. The jungle, it's like it's alive inside me, but I don't know how to control it. Orvik knelt beside him, hand brushing the water, sending ripples that glimmered with faint runes. The mark is the key. It is more than fire, more than wings. It is a channel of destiny. Learn its rhythm, and you can shape what comes. Fail, and it may consume you. Herman swallowed, feeling the pulse along his arm surge. The wings stretched slightly, tail flicking like molten flame. Teach me, he whispered. Orvik's eyes glimmered. We begin with the flow. Close your eyes. Herman did. The jungle hummed around him, leaves whispering, roots pulsing beneath his hands. The mark flared brighter, wings and tail alive. Orvik's deep voice guided him. Feel the energy beneath your feet, the heartbeat of the jungle, the pulse of the earth. Now let it rise into your veins, into the mark. Do not resist. Let it move with you, through you. Herman focused. The pulse thrummed, a river of power surging through him. He felt heat climb his arm, wings flaring, tail curling, energy rushing faster than thought. He raised his staff instinctively, and the water before him lifted, swirling with shimmering runes, reflecting the fire of his mark. Orvik's voice softened. Good. Now direct it. Shape it. Herman willed the energy outward. Roots bent, water swirled, leaves lifted. The jungle obeyed, flowing through him. Sparks of light shot from the mark, tracing arcs across the clearing, illuminating his face in molten glow. For the first time, Herman felt the connection fully. Not just to the jungle, not just to the mark, but to the prophecy itself. Cities burning, nations breaking, the destiny whispered by the stone. All of it pulsed within him, not as a threat, but as a path he could shape. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. You are learning, child of the forbidden. But mastery is a long road. The Conqueror's shadow grows. He will test not only your strength but your will. Herman looked at his glowing arm, wings, and tail alive in the moonlight. Then, I will be ready. The jungle hummed in response, alive, patient, waiting. And somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's gaze already swept across Runeski, seeking the boy who was more than a child, the mark that burned with fire, and the destiny that was just beginning to awaken. Chapter 22. Visions of the Anvil. The jungle slept, but Herman did not. Moonlight streamed through the thick canopy, illuminating the mark on his arm, the raven's wings shimmering, tail curling fully to his wrist. The pulse of the jungle throbbed in rhythm with his heartbeat, a low hum that seemed to vibrate through the soil, through the roots, and through him. Orvik watched silently. The mark grows restless tonight, he said. It calls. Listen carefully. Not everything it shows will be clear. Not everything it shows will be kind. Herman nodded, gripping his staff. He closed his eyes and let the pulse of the mark wash over him. The first vision came swiftly. A forge of molten stone stretched across a vast landscape. Sparks flew like stars, and in the center, a massive anvil rose, glowing with the heat of unseen fires. Across the anvil, cities crumbled, kingdoms breaking as if made of glass. And standing atop the anvil, Herman saw himself. Wings blazing, tail streaming molten light, staff raised. Every motion shattered walls, toppled armies, twisted the very flow of the world's force. Then the scene shifted. His mother appeared, ghostly, her eyes filled with sorrow and love. She reached toward him, whispering words he could not hear. Betrayal, warning, promise. The fragments of her story seared into his mind. Child of the forbidden, the vision whispered. Born of betrayal. Herman's mark flared violently, wings spreading, tail flicking like molten fire. The jungle pulsed in response, roots quivering, leaves rustling, as if acknowledging the truth revealed. Another image, the Conqueror, cloaked in darkness, standing over armies, eyes burning with intent. Herman felt a shiver of fear, but also understanding. His destiny was intertwined with this figure, not merely as an enemy, but as a force that would test the limits of his power. Orvik's deep voice cut through the visions. The long tail of your mark is the river of fate. It will bend the flow of force, but only if you learn to control it. Each trial, each shadow, each fire you face is a step toward mastery. Herman's eyes snapped open, chest heaving. His mark glowed bright against the night, wings flaring, tail shimmering like molten flame. I understand, he whispered. I have to master this. Not just for me, for everything. The jungle hummed in response, alive, patient, and expectant. Herman rose to his feet, staff in hand, feeling the pulse of the world through the mark. The path ahead was unclear, dangerous, and filled with fire. But for the first time, he felt ready to walk it. And somewhere, far beyond the jungle, the Conqueror's gaze sharpened, sensing the stirrings of a power that might unmake what was forged. Chapter 23. The Siege of Shadows. Dawn broke over the jungle with a silver haze. Herman crouched atop a twisted root, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered like molten fire, tail curling fully to his wrist. The pulse of the jungle throbbed in rhythm with his heartbeat, urging him, warning him, guiding him. Beyond the dense trees, the outsiders had returned. Not a patrol, not a small scouting party, but a full battalion. Torches burned like fallen stars, crude runes glinting along their armor and weapons. Their captain led them, eyes sharp, fury etched in every line of his face. Herman exhaled, feeling the pulse of the mark surge through him. The wings spread wider, tail flaring, energy radiating from his arm into the jungle itself. Roots twisted beneath his feet, leaves shivering, and the forest seemed to bend to his will. Orvik stepped beside him. "Remember, child of the forbidden, the jungle flows through you. Command it, do not fight it. Your mark is the key." Herman nodded, staff raised. The first wave surged forward. Roots erupted, vines lashed, and glowing runes carved themselves into the soil. Sparks danced where weapons struck the enchanted barriers. The captain roared, swinging his sword. Herman met him in the center of the clearing. The mark flared, wings and tail alive, and energy surged outward in a pulse that threw soldiers back. Roots shot up, ensnaring those who pressed too close. Herman moved with precision, guided by the rhythm of the jungle and the pulse of the mark. Each swing of the staff, each movement of his body, channeled energy through the forest, bending the flow of force as Orvik had taught him. The battalion faltered, confused and terrified. The jungle obeyed Herman, every tree and root a weapon, every shadow a shield. Sparks flared, torches were extinguished, and soldiers stumbled against unseen barriers. The captain lunged, fury in his eyes. Herman's mark flared white-hot, wings stretching fully, tail flicking like molten fire. He struck with the staff, a controlled surge of energy that hurled the captain back, crashing into the edge of the forest. Herman's breath came ragged, but he stood tall. The pulse of the mark slowed to a steady rhythm, wings shimmering, tail curling in molten arcs. The jungle hummed in approval. Orvik's voice rumbled beside him. "Well done, child of the forbidden. You have defended the jungle, but this is only the beginning. The Conqueror's shadow grows, and his forces will not cease. Each trial prepares you, sharpens you. Remember that." Herman gazed toward the horizon, the first rays of sunlight glinting off the jungle canopy. The battle was won, but the war, the prophecy, was only beginning. And somewhere far beyond the trees, the Conqueror's eyes narrowed, already plotting the next move. Chapter 24. Embers of Power. The jungle exhaled. Herman knelt beside the shattered roots and scorched leaves, staff in hand, the mark along his arm glowing softly now, wings shimmering faintly, tail curling like molten light. The battle had ended, but the pulse of the forest still thrummed around him, alive, watchful, patient. Orvik stood nearby, massive as ever, molten eyes scanning the clearing. "You have learned much, child of the forbidden," he said. "But raw power is not mastery. You must understand, not just command. Your mark is a river. You must learn its currents." Herman exhaled, muscles aching, sweat dripping from his brow. "I can feel it," he said, voice low. "The jungle, it's alive inside me. Every strike, every root, every pulse of energy. I can feel it guiding me." Orvik nodded. "Good. But the jungle will demand more. It will test not just your strength, but your choices. Every pulse of your mark is a question, and the answer will shape your destiny." Herman traced the glowing wings along his bicep with his fingers, tail flicking lightly against his wrist. Sparks danced faintly where he touched, the mark alive with subtle energy. "I understand," he whispered. "I need to learn more, control more, not just for battles, but for what's coming." The jungle seemed to hum in agreement, leaves rustling, roots quivering, as if affirming the boy's resolve. Herman stood, staff in hand, feeling the pulse of his mark grow steadier, stronger. Orvik's deep voice cut through the quiet. "The Conqueror's shadow is long, and he watches all. But you have taken the first step. You have bent the flow of force, defended the jungle, and begun to awaken what lies within your blood and your mark." Herman's chest swelled with determination. The raven's wings flared, tail flicking in molten arcs. He could feel the prophecy stirring, the whispering stone calling, the fate of kingdoms resting on the decisions he would make. "The trials are only beginning," Orvik continued, "and the jungle will guide you, if you listen." Herman nodded, staff resting across his shoulder. The sunlight broke through the canopy in golden streams, illuminating the mark, wings, and tail alive in the glow. The jungle whispered around him, patient, expectant, waiting. He was no longer just a boy of the forge. He was Herman Runeborn. the child of the forbidden, the bearer of the mark, and the world beyond the trees would soon learn what that meant. Chapter 25. The Stranger in the Leaves. Herman moved cautiously through the jungle, staff in hand, mark glowing faintly along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered red-gold, tail curling fully to his wrist, pulsing with the heartbeat of the forest. Every rustle of leaves, every shifting shadow made him tense. From the mist ahead, a figure emerged, cloaked in green and brown that blended seamlessly with the trees. A hood shadowed their face, but the eyes that gleamed beneath were sharp, intelligent, and wary. "Stop," the figure said, voice calm but firm. "I mean no harm, if you hear me out." Herman raised his staff instinctively, pulse of the mark flaring. "Who are you?" "Name matters little," the stranger replied. "What matters is that I know the prophecy, and I know what the jungle has chosen in you." Orvik stepped forward, molten eyes narrowing. "Do not underestimate this one. The jungle has its secrets, child. Listen, but stay vigilant." Herman lowered his staff slightly but did not relax. "The prophecy?" he asked. "You know about it?" The stranger nodded. "I have watched the long tale of your mark for years. You are the child of the forbidden, the one destined to unmake what was forged. But the path is dangerous, full of fire and shadow. Many will seek to guide you, or to mislead you." Herman's mark flared, wings spreading, tail flicking in molten arcs. He felt the jungle pulse beneath him, alive and watching. "Why now? Why come to me here?" "Because time runs short," the stranger said, stepping closer. "The Conqueror senses your awakening. He tests your strength, probes your limits. You will need allies, knowledge, and cunning, but not all can be trusted. The jungle will reveal truth, if you can read it." Orvik's voice rumbled. "Heed this carefully, Herman. Not all who speak of prophecy are guides. Some may be shadows themselves." Herman clenched his fists, feeling the pulse of the mark surge through him. Wings shimmered, tail curling higher. "I will be careful, but I will listen. I need every piece of the path I can find." The stranger inclined their head. "Good. Then heed this. The trials ahead will shape not just you, but the flow of the world itself. The long tail of your mark will bend what is forged, but only if you survive the fire to come." The jungle hummed around them, alive, patient, expectant. Herman felt the weight of the prophecy, the pulse of the mark, and the stirrings of a destiny he was only beginning to understand. Somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's shadow watched, silent and calculating. But in the jungle, a new voice had entered the circle, a guide, or a challenge, and Herman would have to decide whether to trust it. Chapter 26. The Shadow of the Conqueror. Far beyond the jungle, in a citadel carved of black stone and fire, the Conqueror stood atop a high balcony. His gaze stretched across maps, glowing runes, and magical scrying stones that hummed with distant power. "He survives," a lieutenant whispered, voice trembling. "The child, he bends the jungle. He grows stronger." The Conqueror's eyes burned like molten obsidian. "Good," he said softly, voice low but commanding. "Let him believe he is learning. Let him believe he is in control." He moved to the scrying stone, hands tracing symbols etched in crimson, and the image of Herman appeared. Staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm, standing among twisting roots that bent at his will. The boy's wings shimmered, tail flicking like molten fire. "The jungle flows through him," the Conqueror murmured, almost admiring. "Yet he is untested. The long tail of his mark is his strength, and his weakness." A plan took shape in the Conqueror's mind, a trial that would test the child beyond the forest's edge, beyond the mark, beyond even the jungle itself. He would send agents, spies, and warriors imbued with shadow magic to probe Herman's limits. Each encounter would sharpen him, or break him. "Prepare the Vanguard," he commanded, "and the shadow saboteurs. Let the jungle see the hand of the Conqueror. Let the child taste the edge of fate." A lieutenant bowed. "It will be done, my lord. But What of the runesmiths? They are said to be nearly invincible. The Conqueror smiled, thin and cruel. Invincible, yes, for now. But even mountains crumble when the right blow strikes. And this child, he said, voice low, eyes glinting with dark fire, he is the hammer that will shape or shatter the world. I will see which. The citadel trembled faintly, as if echoing the Conqueror's intent. Shadows deepened, spreading outward, reaching toward the jungle, reaching toward Herman Runeborn, child of the Forbidden, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, the long tail of destiny. Somewhere far away, in the pulse of the forest, Herman's mark flared, wings and tail alive, sensing the stirrings of an enemy already preparing to strike. The first wave of the Conqueror's hand had been set. The trial had begun. Chapter 27. The First Strike. The jungle was restless. Herman stood at the edge of a clearing, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered, tail curling fully to his wrist, pulsing with molten fire. The air vibrated with tension, faint ripples of shadow magic brushing against the forest's wards. Orvik's deep voice rumbled beside him. The Conqueror moves. His hand is already here. Do not underestimate the subtle strikes, they are more dangerous than open assault. Herman nodded, senses sharpening. The jungle whispered warnings, roots quivering, leaves rustling in an unnatural rhythm. Something was approaching, a trap, not of soldiers, but of hidden shadow, bending light, twisting the air itself. Suddenly, a volley of shadow darts shot through the trees, striking at the roots and vines. Herman twisted, staff swinging, deflecting the first few. His mark flared violently, wings spreading, tail whipping, energy surging through him and into the jungle. Roots shot upward, ensnaring the remaining darts before they could reach him. A distorted figure emerged from the shadows, humanoid, cloaked in darkness, moving with unnatural speed. It attacked with blades that shimmered like liquid night, striking at Herman from unexpected angles. Herman's pulse surged. The mark flared white-hot, wings shimmering, tail streaming fire down his arm. He moved in perfect harmony with the jungle, dodging, deflecting, countering, every motion guided by instinct and the pulse of the mark. The shadowed attacker lunged again, but Herman struck the ground with his staff. A wave of energy pulsed outward, bending the flow of force around him. The figure stumbled, then vanished into mist, retreating with a hiss. Orvik's voice broke through the tension. Well done, child of the Forbidden. You have felt the edge of his hand. But remember, this is only the beginning. He tests your limits slowly, probing, preparing. You must anticipate, adapt, and master the mark fully before the next wave comes. Herman exhaled, chest heaving, mark glowing softly, wings and tail flickering like molten fire. The forest whispered around him, alive, patient and expectant. Somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's gaze lingered, calculating, preparing the next strike. Herman had survived the first test, but the trials of the Forbidden Jungle and of his destiny were only just beginning. Chapter 28. Shadows Unleashed. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. Herman crouched low, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered, tail curling fully to his wrist. Every pulse of the mark thrummed in harmony with the jungle's heartbeat, warning him, guiding him. From the mist, a figure emerged. Cloaked in shadows, it moved silently, limbs bending unnaturally, blades glinting with black runes that hissed against the jungle's wards. Orvik's voice rumbled beside him. The Conqueror's hand grows bolder. Do not underestimate this one. It is trained to counter the mark's flow. Herman's pulse surged. The wings on his mark flared, tail whipping, energy spilling into the roots and vines around him. The jungle responded instantly, roots twisting into barricades, leaves swirling like shields. The shadow saboteur struck first, blades slicing through air, aiming for Herman's exposed side. He twisted, staff swinging, energy pulsing from the mark. Sparks flew as the blades collided with glowing roots that had shot up from the ground. Herman countered, directing a surge of force through the staff, roots lashing and vines striking with precision. The shadow twisted, vanished, then reappeared behind him, faster than thought, aiming a flurry of strikes. The mark flared violently, wings spreading fully, tail flicking in molten arcs. Herman felt the pulse of the jungle flow through him, guiding his movements. He moved with perfect rhythm, anticipating attacks, deflecting blades, bending the flow of force around him. A final lunge from the saboteur brought him face to face with Herman. He struck the staff downward, releasing a wave of energy that surged along the jungle floor, sending the shadow stumbling backward. The saboteur hissed, mist curling off its body as it dissolved into the jungle shadows, retreating silently. Herman's chest heaved, mark glowing brightly. The wings shimmered, tail flicking, alive with molten fire. Orvik's molten eyes gleamed with pride. "You have done well, child of the forbidden," he said. "But the Conqueror's hand is long. He tests, he probes, he waits. Each strike teaches you, but each is also a warning. The trials are only growing harder." Herman stood, staff raised, pulse of the mark steadying. The jungle hummed approval, alive and aware, ready for whatever came next. Somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's shadow watched, patient, calculating. Herman had survived this strike. But the storm of destiny was only beginning to gather. Chapter 29. Mastery in the Making. Dawn filtered through the thick canopy, casting jagged patterns of light on the jungle floor. Herman crouched on a high root, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered red-gold, tail curling fully to his wrist, pulsing with molten energy. The pulse of the jungle echoed in his bones, alive, patient, and demanding. Orvik's massive form loomed beside him, eyes molten gold scanning the trees. "The Conqueror's strikes are growing sharper, child of the forbidden. You must learn to anticipate, not react. Control is born of understanding, not instinct alone." Herman nodded. "I can feel the flow, but I don't know its limits yet." Orvik extended a hand toward the jungle floor. "Then push them. Shape the jungle. Bend the flow of force. Let the mark guide you, not just in battle, but in thought." Herman lowered his staff and closed his eyes. He reached deep, drawing energy from the roots, the soil, the air, and the pulse of his mark. The wings shimmered brighter, tail flicking as molten fire along his arm. He felt the jungle respond, every leaf and root attuned to his intent. With a sweep of his staff, roots lifted, bending into arcs and barriers. Vines whipped forward, coiling around logs, swinging with precision. Herman experimented, directing the energy in arcs and waves, sending pulses along the forest floor. Sparks leapt where his mark's energy intersected the glowing runes at his feet. Orvik watched, nodding slowly. "Good. Now push further. Let the mark do more than react. Let it create, destroy, reshape." Herman raised his staff higher, focusing. The mark flared white-hot, wings fully expanded, tail streaming molten fire like a ribbon of living light. The roots and vines obeyed his intent, forming barriers, weapons, and channels for energy to flow. He sent a pulse into the air, and the leaves shimmered, lifted, and spiraled around him in a storm of living green. He exhaled, chest heaving, the jungle humming approval. "I can feel it," he whispered. "I can shape it, not just fight with it." Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. "This is only the beginning. The Conqueror tests you to shape your will, but you are learning faster than he anticipated. Keep this path, and the long tail of your mark will bend more than just trees." Herman looked at his glowing arm, wings shimmering, tail flicking like molten fire. The jungle hummed in response, alive, expectant, ready. The trials were coming faster now. The Conqueror's shadow stretched across the land, but Herman Runeborn, child of the forbidden, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, was awakening to the full power of his destiny. And the first true battle beyond instinct was waiting, just beyond the misty edge of the jungle. Chapter 30. The Vanguard approaches. The jungle trembled at mid-morning. Herman crouched on a high root, staff in hand, mark blazing along his arm. The raven's wings shimmered red-gold, tail curling fully to his wrist, pulsing with molten energy. The pulse of the jungle thrummed in harmony with his heartbeat, alive, aware, and warning him. Beyond the thick canopy, a massive force advanced, the Conqueror's Vanguard. Soldiers in dark armor, weapons inscribed with shadow runes, marched in formation, flanked by beasts twisted by magic. Torches burned like fallen stars, and a low hum of dark energy emanated from the ranks. Orvik stepped beside Herman, molten eyes narrowing. The first wave of the Conqueror's main force. You will face more than scouts now. Control your mark, child of the forbidden. Lead the jungle. Herman's pulse surged. Wings flared, tail flicking in molten arcs. He planted his staff firmly and raised it, channeling the jungle's energy. Roots twisted upward, forming barricades. Vines snapped, coiled, and surged forward with lightning precision. Leaves lifted and spun, forming shields and whips of green, glittering with runic fire. The Vanguard met the jungle's defenses and faltered. Soldiers stumbled against roots, beasts roared and recoiled from the unseen energy, weapons clashing against barriers that moved as though alive. Herman advanced, staff glowing, mark blazing. Each strike sent pulses of energy rippling through the forest floor, bending the flow of force. Soldiers were thrown back, their shadow runes cracking against the pulses. Sparks leapt where roots collided with armor. The captain of the Vanguard charged, eyes blazing with dark intent. Herman met him in the center of the clearing, wings shimmering, tail curling, energy surging in controlled waves. A clash of force erupted as staff met sword, energy flaring outward, shaking the trees and sending sparks flying like molten rain. Orvik's deep voice guided him. Focus, Runeborn. Bend the force. Do not merely strike. Herman felt the mark respond, wings flaring wider, tail lashing like a whip of molten fire. The jungle pulsed in perfect rhythm with him. Roots and vines lashed, leaves spun, and the energy of the mark surged outward, forcing the captain to stumble. Soldiers fell back in chaos, unable to comprehend the living forest bending to the boy's will. The Vanguard hesitated, fear rippling through their ranks. Herman stood tall, chest heaving, mark glowing, wings and tail alive. The pulse of the jungle hummed approval. He had survived the first large-scale confrontation. He had led the jungle. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. You are awakening, child of the forbidden. But remember, the Conqueror will not stop here. Each wave grows stronger, each trial sharper. The long tail of your mark is your guide and your weapon. Herman looked beyond the treeline, seeing the shadow of forces yet to come. He exhaled, wings shimmering, tail flicking, ready. The war was beginning in earnest. And somewhere, far beyond the jungle, the Conqueror's eyes narrowed, calculating, plotting the next strike against the boy who was becoming more than a child. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, the child of the forbidden, and the long tale of destiny. You've just listened to Runeborn, Shadows Within, Part 2 of Herman's journey. Written by Raul, narrated for Audible Archives. From the first whispers in the jungle to the clash with the Conqueror's Vanguard, the path has only just begun. The long tale of destiny is still uncoiling, and the trials ahead will test not only Herman's strength, but his very will. If this story carried you into the shadows, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps the fire of Runeborn alive. And join us next time as we continue the saga into Part 3, where the jungle is no longer enough to contain the storm.
Another chapter closes, but the archives remain, waiting for the next seeker of stories. Here, no voice is lost, no tale truly ends. This is Audible Archives. Until we meet again, may your mind wander freely and your heart never forget the stories we share.